You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 221. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Spencer Valdez.
Comic Reflections is brought to you by The Outhouse. You can find our show and other neat content at theouthousers.com. And if you enjoy this program, please subscribe to us on either iTunes or Stitcher.
You can also rate and review us on iTunes. And I don't know, what else did you want me to say?
Oh, just that would be great.
Oh.
So anyway,
Okay.
I'm not going to do another take.
That's
but
fine.
anyway, at the top of the show, I like to plug another show that I think is neat.
You do?
And actually this is a pair, but one guy is co-host on both of them. Nathaniel Hubbard has two great podcasts. One of them is he's currently doing episodes, and one is like kind of on hiatus. Teen Titans Wasteland comes out every week, and it's he and his brother Corey are going through the Silver Age Teen Titans issues, and it's really a funny show.
Cool.
And Nathaniel Hubbard and another guy, and I'm blanking on the name, I'm sorry, Cross is his last name. He's an artist. They have a podcast called Traveling Through the Bronze Age, and they just to take each episode is an issue of Bronze Age comics, a lot of issues of ROM, and they do a humorous conversation about that, and it's really a load of fun. Both of these are on iTunes. I think anybody who likes this show would probably like those a lot better. But let's talk about our Green Lantern issues for this week.
We're back. We took a break off for we retired from con.
Yeah, we went to Rose City Comic Con a couple weeks ago, and we took a week off recording because man, con is just draining.
It's a lot of fun. There was a lot of great panels and stuff, but it was just really tiring.
Well, and I have a regular I have to make time to do the reading for this whatever episode you and I are going to do, plus whatever books I'm reading for the shows I would do with Jeff.
Right.
And that time just disappeared because of convention, and I'm still playing catch up. Yeah. So anyway, we are back with another episode about Green Lantern. Let's start with Green Lantern number 51, cover dated March of 1967. Cover art by Gil Kane. Let's look at this cover for a sec. Spencer, do you have it open there?
Yeah, right here.
So...
Yeah, so we have Paul Manning and two of his evolved Neanderthals.
Yeah, hench monsters,
Yeah.
Like you have.
And they're just wailing on Hal Jordan Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And he's so Paul Manning, as you know, is the alter ego of Hal Jordan
in the future.
Yeah, in the future. He's whenever there's a problem in the 57th century.
I think that's right, yeah.
They decide, we need the solar director, not dictator, director.
Yeah, they made him the solar director after they plucked him out of time before, and he helped them out real good.
Right, yeah.
This is the lead story, or that's the story. This issue, the whole issue is one story, is like the fourth Paul Manning story.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, it said so. There's an editor's note.
Oh, well, fine.
So, but from Julius Schwartz. And anyway, yeah. So the further developments in this, I don't understand why they didn't just contact him and ask him for help. Like he would say no.
Right, yeah.
I just don't get that.
Yeah.
But it sets up an interesting concept. And anyway, we'll just talk about that.
Yeah.
So the story in this issue is called Green Lantern's Evil Alter Ego.
Yeah.
Which is written by John Broome, penciled and inked by Gil Kane. Mm-hmm. What were you going to say? Well, I interrupted you a minute ago.
Well, I'll just dive into the story. I think that's what I was going
to
do. So we have Hal Jordan, and he's kind of looking at his things. He doesn't have a lot of things. He's on the road, if you remember.
Right.
He's taken off from Coast City to find who he is outside of being Green Lantern.
Right. But because Carol has agreed to marry another guy, he can't stick around in Coast City. He's busted up about it. He's trying to find himself.
Yeah. So he's
really interesting arc for Hal.
Yeah.
I like it.
He's kind of a crybaby.
What?
I love Hal Jordan, but he's being kind of a crybaby.
I didn't pick up on that at all.
Well, he's running away from his problems.
Sometimes you have to get away to reassess your values and
I think taking some time for yourself, but like straight leaving and not,
He's not saying he's never going to come back to Coast City.
Right, but he's not in contact with his friends. He's not.
He's in contact with Pieface.
Not that we've read.
But he totally gets a letter from Hal in this issue.
What?
Or in this issue or one of the next ones.
Okay.
But anyway, sometimes this is a thing men do sometimes. And it's not weird. It's actually a fairly common practice, especially in movies, television, radio plays of this time and before.
Right.
So, it's a fairly common cultural trope.
Okay. Speaking of radio shows, I've been listening to the Superman radio show from the 40s.
Yeah.
And just, like, making some of the kids I work with listen to it as well.
Yeah.
And, like, half of them were just, like, riveted, and the other half were like, this is boring. Like, this is old. Why can't we just watch it? Just typical. The
worst kids in the world.
Yeah.
But the kids who were riveted, best kids in the world.
Oh, yeah. They're great.
On my phone, I found an app. This is a brief segue. I found an app where I can stream radio stations, just like any old radio station, anywhere. And so I was looking for radio dramas to stream while at home, right?
Oh, right.
Because I don't want everything I do to be podcasts. Sometimes I can just pull up something, just listen. Yeah. And I find I can listen to the radio shows, radio dramas, while I'm reading comics or something else.
Oh, okay.
And I can't do that with, like, talk show podcasts. I just can't. There's too much distance there. But there's a couple of stations I found on this app. Let me pull it up. Keep talking for a second.
Yeah, I was trying to...
it's a simple radio app. Oh. And anyway, I'll pull up the two stations I found. They're both showing... One's called Shadowy Realms, and the other one's called Mystery Play Internet. Mystery Play Internet Radio. And both of these are playing, like, great old mystery shows, or, like, kind of... Not the Twilight Zone, but things like The Unexpected, or kind of like, woo! Okay. Like... spooky story type of stuff, and it's great. Yeah. And one show I was listening to, I wish I could remember the name of it, it was like a detective-y kind of mystery show about an insurance claims adjuster.
Oh.
And Hal becomes one in this arc, and that's why I was bringing it up.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get there, but
right.
But that's really great because it's like stories about fraud, or that's a great way to take. Like, oh, this is a real job somebody's having, make it exciting, and it's fodder for mysteries and dramas. So, I'm sure insurance claims adjusters in real life, it's not...
Pretty boring.
It can't be that interesting. It could be really cool, who knows?
Right.
But there's got to be a lot of, like, ho-humminess. But at least in the issues that we're going to read today, it seems kind of neat.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the comics.
Yeah, so Hal is going through his things, and he kind of comes upon his... two kind of mysterious items. It's a piece of metal, and a gem of some sort.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I've put these away. I don't really look at them, but there's things that I don't know where they came from. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna just take some time, and I'm gonna figure this mystery out. So he whips out the ring, and he uses the ring to figure out where do these metals come from? Where do the jewels come from? And how can I find out more information about them? And so the ring starts kind of ticking off how old the gem is, and he starts it's instead of going backwards in time, it's going forwards in time. 2500, 2800, 5707 is where it kind of lands. And it's like, yeah, it's from the 57th century, so is this metal. And he's like, what? How is that even possible for me to have this this stuff on me? Meanwhile, in the 57th century, there's we go to the kind of the council room, and they're talking about the Solar Council, and how they kind of need Green Lantern soon, or over something. And as they're talking about him, out of nowhere, Paul Manning shows up.
Now, and Paul Manning is the fake identity they made up for him
Right.
to have when he's in the future.
Yeah.
That is totally amnesic about when he returns to the past. Why they did that, I still don't understand.
Right.
But Paul Manning has become a real guy now.
Yeah.
What's going on? And he's born from the imagination, the willpower of Hal.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. I feel like there were themes about this, like his unconscious, doing things with the ring played up in much earlier issues, and now we're having a return to this.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
It's because they were messing with his mind.
Yeah.
That's why Paul Manning became a god.
Yeah.
But his untampered mind, Hal has like safeguards to prevent him from doing that.
Right. Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
And I think John Broome wrote all those stories playing up on these themes, so it's neat, if I recall.
Yes, I mean, and so as soon as so Doctor Strange hate.
Yeah,
he's been going around causing trouble. He's been evolving creatures,
right,
which is against the Solar Council.
Right, and then he reveals himself. He's Paul Manning.
Yeah, and so he has this like blaster gun that he uses on like the table and things.
Yeah.
But Iona, the female damsel of the 57th century,
she's Hal's in the future love interest.
Yeah,
which
she's like
interesting to play up on this now that Carol's out of the picture.
Yes, and so she's like, well, why don't I just call the real Green Lantern here and get him to fight Paul Manning?
Right.
And so she goes over to the computer. She starts like trying to work it, and like Paul Manning's like, I know what you're doing, and he shoots the computer, and so they're not able to transport Green Lantern for a while until the computer's fixed. Flashing back to Hal Jordan, he's getting all this information about this gem and this jewel, or this gem and this piece of metal, and he's like, okay, I gotta go to the 57th century. He powers up his ring. We get the Lantern Oak, and he takes off. He travels through time using the power ring to the 57th century. And he kind of just shows up in the middle of the Solar Council.
Right.
And immediately, him and Paul Manning start to fight.
Really?
But Paul, he kind of realizes, like, hey, if any other circumstances, we would probably be great friends. But I'm like, no, they wouldn't. You're, like, breaking all the laws.
Here's the thing.
You immediately start, like...
There's a lot of things at play. First of all, Hal is saying that to Paul. Is that right?
What?
That we would be great friends?
No. They were both having, like... there's, like, thought bubbles.
Oh, okay,
and so, like, Hal's thinking, hey, he looks rather familiar.
Yeah.
And Paul, knowing who Green Lantern is, is like, oh... If this was any other kind of circumstance, we'd probably be great friends, and,
I think it's playing up like Jekyll and Hyde kinds of things, as in they're two aspects of the same guy, left and right brain or something like that. So it's like, I can see where they're saying, like, they could work harmoniously. Yeah. I was thinking, I didn't realize they were thought balloons, because
they weren't actually
it's been a couple of days since I read this. I was thinking that maybe one was using that as just like they're trying to psych out the other, or using psychology like to kind of get them to drop their guard or something like that. Right. But anyway.
And so they start just brawling, and there's this awesome panel of Hal who's like locked his hands together and just wallops Paul Manning.
Yeah, I wonder, what's that move when you lock your fingers and then do that two-handed punch?
I don't know. They called it, later on in these issues, they called it a club. He, like, clubbed him with his fists.
Well, that just means he hit him. I wonder if that's what a haymaker is.
No, a haymaker is from, like, way...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, I need to know more about punching.
Yeah.
Because I see that, put the two hands together... and hit somebody.
Right, so he does this here.
But I see it a lot in old movies. Oh, right. But I want to know what that move is called.
Oh, right.
But anyway.
And so Hal kind of just knocks him out, basically. And immediately Iona throws her arms around Hal and plants a kiss on him. And he's thinking, this is a... This visit is to the future is full of surprises. And he doesn't mind it. She's a good-looking girl, and she's throwing herself at him. Sweet.
Pretty much.
And so Hal, who's just got done fighting, kissing a girl, and is like, okay, hold up. What's going on? And they're like, all right, let's plug you in, and we'll show you what's been going on. So they put this like crazy helmet on him, and they give him all the information that he's been missing. That he is the solar director, and he's kind of like, whenever he shows up, he's in charge. He no one has higher power than him.
Okay.
Yeah, and so kind of moving along the storyline, Paul Manning is then put on trial. And so maybe through the connecting Hal to the computer to show him, what he's missed.
Yeah.
He also gained all of the knowledge of the laws of the 57th century.
Maybe.
I'm hoping because...
Well, because,
when you're just putting, a guy from the past with outdated,
Well, and this is... Here's a change. Paul Manning knows all about this future time.
Mm-hmm.
Hal only knows about the future when he's been in the future and he thinks he's Paul Manning.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's himself.
Mm-hmm.
And... doesn't really... I don't know if he really remembers all the stuff that happened before.
He does.
He does.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. They showed him when they plugged him in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he's the one who's going to decide the fate of Paul Manning. And so hopefully he knows all of the laws of the land at this point, because if he doesn't, Paul Manning's not getting a fair trial.
Okay.
And so they kind of have this kind of back and forth. And they're thinking about each other. But at the door, crash, and in busts a large creature, and we find out that while Paul Manning was back on his planet, doing his experiments, he super evolved a Neanderthal. And so it has extremely well thought, it has a human brain, and is able Neanderthal strength.
Yeah.
And so it kind of looks like this Hulkish kind of beast kind of creature. And honestly, in this picture, in this panel here, as soon as I saw it, the face of Paul Manning looks just like Negan from The Walking Dead. If you're reading that series,
I'm so not.
Right,
but yeah.
But his face, just like him. It's kind of creepy. Yeah. So Hal and the Neanderthal start fighting, and the power ring is almost useless against it because the Neanderthal has such strong willpower of his own. And so Hal starts getting kind of beat up a lot. But then he starts getting a few licks in, a few more licks, and then just he goes for that double-fisted punch thing again, and lays into the Neanderthal. But the Neanderthal's way stronger, knocks Hal out, and ends up kidnapping, or Paul Manning ends up kidnapping Iona, and takes off with her.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and while Hal's knocked out, the rest of the Solar Council kind of is trying to wake him up, and they're like, "Hey, you gotta take a rest. You just got the crap beat out of you, and you were knocked out. You need to hang out." Hal Jordan, being Hal Jordan, is like, "No, I gotta go save her," and takes off towards Manning's hideout, where all the Neo-Men, the Neanderthals, are guarding the place. He's hit with the willpower beams of the Neo-Men, and he's almost brought down, but it I wasn't really sure how he kind of got out of the situation. Like he's almost paralyzed. He was like pretending he was paralyzed.
Right.
And so they let up, and he like takes them out with the ring.
Yeah, he just smacks him against the wall, which is pretty cool.
He breaks down the door where Iona Vane is about to die, and Paul Manning is like he has this like bond weapon on kind of like pointed at her.
Yeah, I was thinking that. It's totally like the yes, very James Bondian.
Yeah, and so they're fighting, and Hal finally kind of gets the upper hand, knocks with a big slam, knocks Paul Manning into a wall, takes him out. Paul Manning's kind of put on trial again, but he's the ring. My ring can't affect Manning physically, but mentally is another manner. I've got to use all my willpower to penetrate his mind, erase the evil there, and wipe it clean. After tense moments, the operation is completed. Please check it out. I am weak and I need rest. Basically, he made Paul Manning a good guy.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
So wait, it's kind of weird. He just changed who he was.
Yeah. He then
shocking abuse of power, really.
He shows Iona the medal and the jewel. She tells him to keep it. It's as a memory of her.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get this this epilogue with the Guardians, and the Guardians are they're breaking the fourth wall. They're telling the reader what is going on. Let's see. Iona's last thought as the Emerald Crusader disappears above brings up a curious point. Why does the 58th century not have its own Green Lantern to call upon? And what about Green Lantern's masters, the Guardians of the Universe?
I can answer
Where
that.
are they?
I can answer to why they don't have a Green Lantern.
Okay.
Some point during, I think it's the 29th or the 30th century where the Legion are. Mm-hmm. At the time of the Legion is active, Green Lanterns are banned from Earth.
Oh.
So at some point in the 30th century or before, they were banned from being on Earth. So apparently that ban must still be in effect in 2,000 years later. 2 or 3,000 years later.
So the Guardians also give an answer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they say, although our powers don't allow us to travel into the future, we do get glimpses of it. And basically, because Hal Jordan was such a good Green Lantern...
Oh, right. They say that Earth didn't need one.
For thousands of years, Earth doesn't need a Green Lantern.
Which is such a cop-out. And we know that there are lanterns that follow him.
Right, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that was that was our first issue.
Yeah, okay, so... Moving on to Green Lantern number 52. Cover dated April 1967. Cover art penciled by Gil Kane and inked by Murphy Anderson. And it's a terrific cover with Hal Jordan facing off against Sinestro.
Yeah, so this issue, we have this awesome cover.
Yeah.
It's actually the cover of this volume.
Of the showcase volume, yeah.
With Hal Jordan and Sinestro, both with their fists against their power battery. And they're they're both kind of repeating their own oath.
Yeah, Sinestro's got this oath that really is dumb.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that.
Yeah, we will.
So anyway, the story in this issue is called Our Mastermind, the Car. Written by John Broome, and penciled and inked by Gil Kane.
Ah.
So in the splash panel, we have Hal Jordan, Alan Scott, and Doiby Dickles facing off against what looks like Doiby's car, Gertrude, all evilly. And you look at, which is shooting like a beam of energy or something at them out of the headlights. And if you look closely, It looks like the headlights look like angry eyes.
Yeah, they do.
Which is ridiculous. But anyway, the story opens really with Pieface and Turga in their kitchen, and Pieface is reading a letter he got from Hal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets a letter from Hal, kind of like, "Hey, this is what's going on." So I was wrong. He is in contact with Pieface.
Yeah.
But hey, this is what's going on. This is the kind of the stuff I was doing, and later when Turga kind of goes out for the shopping, that's exactly what it says.
Remember, it's 1967, so okay.
Pike pulls out his kind of like.
It's the Green Lantern casebook.
Yeah, it's casebook.
Dear Diary,
right,
Aaron Hill didn't notice me again today. Oh, sorry, that's Luann.
Right. Yeah, and so he's like, oh, I got a story for you from before Hal left. But like, I feel like this shouldn't be a casebook story. This should be like a main storyline story.
Oh, because casebook stories were like told like retroactively, like we were talking about sometime unspecified before.
Yeah.
And this is the whole story is kind of, well, you know why they're doing this? It's because Hal is away from home, and they want to include his supporting cast members.
Right.
Remember, every first issue, it's shooter's law.
Right.
Every comic book is somebody's first.
Right.
And so we have to, have reference to supporting characters.
Yeah.
Even if they're not, occurring regularly in this story arc per se.
Right. Yeah. It's just this is such
because Pieface is not involved in the story itself.
No, not at all.
Okay.
But it's such an important story.
Yeah, but I think especially because they're going to include Alan Scott and Doiby, they're making reference to lots of stuff from the past.
They established the spoilers, but they established the Sinestro Corps in this storyline.
Well, sort of. I don't think they're really. I think it's a prototype for a Sinestro Corps, really.
Right.
But yeah.
But I mean, that's where like Sinestro's mind is going. Like, oh,
right.
If I'm gonna stop the Green Lanterns, if I'm gonna kill them, the best way to do that is to form my own group.
But see, I don't recall. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I don't recall any time between this and like when Jeff Johns started writing Green Lantern, there being any Sinestro Corps of any kind.
Okay.
Because I think it was just like a thing that was kind of built in the shadows during John's run, and then there was the Sinestro Corps War. Have you read that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rad.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay.
Right. So
the Sinestro Corps, I remember, had Superboy Prime and the Anti-Monitor too.
Yeah, the Anti-Monitor.
It's like, jeez.
Yeah. So let's see, where are we? Coast City, Hal Jordan. He's having dinner or breakfast with Alan Scott.
Now, Alan is visiting from Earth 2.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's from Gotham, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they. Oh, right. He's there to get Goitrude.
Right.
From Hal.
Right, because Hal was storing it here on Earth 1 because reasons.
Yeah.
Because in the last time they teamed up.
Right. Gertrude was brought over.
Yeah, because Doiby married that princess from the other dimension, and Gertrude and Alan and Doiby came to Earth 1, and Gertrude was left here.
Right. And so Alan is going to take Gertrude to Merg, where Princess Ramia and Doiby
have settled, yeah.
Yeah, and give it to him as a wedding present.
Right. Kind of a late wedding present.
Yeah.
But man,
anniversary present.
Can you imagine if this was like, oh yeah, because that was probably like a year's worth of comics at least of prior. Can you imagine if this was your first Green Lantern exposure at all? It would be super weird.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So saying that, there is a lot of backstory in this first page.
Yeah.
But
it's not lame. It's not boring.
Right. Yeah.
I think this is one of the strengths of DC Comics. Like, oh man, there's all this lore.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Yeah. So they throw open the garage, and Gertrude's gone.
Well, crap.
Yeah. And they're like, well, we gotta be Green Lanterns to solve this. So they switch to their costumes, and take off after trying to find Gertrude.
Yeah.
And it turns out that Gertrude has been taken by some bank robbers.
Yeah.
And is being used to commit all these crimes.
But then it turns out Gertrude's actually takes over the gang.
Yeah.
Is speaking to these guys, and somewhere in the story they make reference that it's like, the gangsters are like, it's like that TV show, My Mother the Car.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a ridiculous comedy from the 60s. Lasted one season, but people remember it because it's so weird.
Right.
A guy's mother is reincarnated as a car that he bought, and it's like some 1920s roadster. Like like Gertrude.
Yeah.
So it's kind of perfect.
Yeah.
Or is it, 1920s touring car.
Right.
But anyway.
So Alan and Hal find Gertrude.
Yeah.
And they go to stop it, and it takes off. With the bank robbers in it.
Right.
And so we flash away. Meanwhile, Gertrude, Doiby and Ramia are still happily married, and she's like knitting on the couch, and he's like messing around with different stuff. But his ring.
I feel like the planet Merg, where she's the princess, is like Eternia in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, because it's a science and sorcery kind of place.
Yeah.
Is that a pretty good analogy?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, obviously this predates that, but,
Right. So, Princess, I got a message over my super galactic ring receiver.
Which is so like the Little Orphan Annie decoder ring.
Well, I thought it was the Sean, who's not with us today.
Your roommate.
Yeah.
He's not dead.
Right. Well, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully not.
We always talk about in TV shows and sci-fi things thank God we invented and so it's just this thing that thank God we invented this lever that opens and closes
exactly what we need to fit the plot.
Exactly.
Thank we invented the plot device.
Right.
Right. It's a MacGuffin.
Yeah. And this ring, to me, I'm sure it's established thing in Earth 2 that Doiby has this ring. But here, it just seems like thank God they invented the super galactic ring receiver.
Well, it's kind of like, it's kind of like Jimmy Olsen's Signal Watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Olsen has something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously Doiby, but I can't think of many other sidekicks that have Pie Face doesn't have a ring or anything.
Right. Well, other supporting cast characters have things like that. The bat signal that Commissioner Gordon uses when he knows about a major crime. We need Batman.
Yeah.
Okay, that kind of thing.
I didn't even think about that. You're right.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other things that would be fitted into that category.
Yeah. But neither the Jimmy Olsen
Signal
Watch and the bat signal don't seem like those seem like things that you would Jimmy you're in danger, or Jimmy hey, come check this out, or Batman, we need you.
Yeah.
This honestly, Doiby is there from my perspective, Doiby is there for comic relief.
He totally is.
And there's why does he need a super galactic receiver ring?
Right.
Other than to just keep in touch.
Right. Well, he was the sidekick of Green Lantern, and it's the comic sidekick is definitely a trope of Golden Age comics.
Okay.
Plastic Man has Woozy Winks.
Mm-hmm.
The Spectre, unfortunately, had Percival Pop, Super Cop.
Okay.
It was terrible.
Right.
Oh, God. It's the thing that ruined the Spectre.
Mm.
But his earlier stories are really grim.
Right.
And then his late Silver Age revivals back to grim.
Right.
That's one character that should be grim.
So one of the panels we went to at Comic-Con talked about sidekicks. The Will Eisner, the spirit, the
Oh, yeah, they talked about some of the spirit sidekicks, like Ebony White
yeah,
and Sammy.
yeah, and I mean that
Yeah.
that's a very kind of touchy subject because it's
Right.
fairly offensive.
Yeah, my friend Dan Scotty is the artist on the current revival of the Spirit, and he talked on that panel like, how can I kind of do a redesign of Ebony so we can use him, but also that's kind of keeps the no pun intended or pun intended the spirit of his character without being like without him being like this subhuman caricature.
Right. Yeah.
And I think they found a way to do it.
But
I'm reading that book right now. It's pretty good.
Oh, cool. I feel like although Doiby isn't a racist stereotype,
Yeah.
he is that kind of like bumbling, like, oh, I don't need,
And there's lots of those kinds of characters in Golden Age stuff. And it's usually a little fat guy.
Yeah, those characters always just kind of frustrate me. Like, I understand that the time people loved it, and so like they wanted to add that.
How do you feel about Johnny Thunder from the Justice Society? He's kind of he's a young guy bumbler, and then he's got the the magic power with the thunderbolt.
Right. Yeah.
I like Johnny Thunder. I guess a lot of people really do not.
Oh.
He's a very unpopular character on the JSA, and I thought I learned this rather recently. I was listening to the Secret Origins podcast.
Oh, okay.
And they were talking about that. Like the guy who hosts it, he has a guest. People will come on with every Secret Origin, and nobody wanted to do Johnny Thunder. Like all the people he knew. And I'm like, well, I like Johnny Thunder, but anyway.
Yeah. Was it the JLA that have the newspaper boys?
Oh, are you talking about the Newsboy Legion?
The Newsboy Legion, yeah.
Well, the Guardian has the Newsboy Legion, and that's a Jack Kirby, Joe Simon creation. Okay. I love those stories. Those are fun.
Yeah.
I think they're great. Yeah.
That was our talk on sidekicks.
Yeah, we really gotten on a rabbit trail. Let's get back to this. I can't think of anybody else who has a signal device or anything.
Right, yeah.
But it's a very golden agey way to do it. Like he's just got the ring or whatever like that. So anyway.
Yeah. And so Doiby hops in spaceship. So the Dimension Changer.
Yeah, of course.
So he can shoot over to Earth 1. He does so. Catches up with Alan Scott and Hal Jordan. They let him know that Gertrude's been stolen. And they take off to find it. They do. And then they get in front of it to stop it. And then out of nowhere, they're nailed with beams of light from the headlights of Gertrude. But it's kind of like Green Lantern light.
Right. But it's probably yellow light.
Right.
Oh.
A strange new power is coming of them. So the bank robbers get out. They start kind of taunting
Hal Allen
and Doiby.
Yeah.
And so Hal and Allen just all right, screw it. And they
Is that what he says?
Right.
No, you're paraphrasing, obviously.
Yeah. Gertrude starts talking to him. Finally says, "Further, get back. I'm about to tap the energy in the power rings of the two paralyzed Green Lanterns." And so yeah, they're paralyzed. And Gertrude sucks the power out, and out of nowhere, boom! Gertrude explodes, and out pops Sinestro.
Yeah.
And
Sinestro is looking really cut.
Yeah.
It's interesting that at least for this story, they made him really buff instead of his traditional real skinny guy.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of a one-time deal with that.
Yeah. Whatever.
But what else? You're trying out different things.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move they went back to him being skinny, because if he looks big and buff, he looks an awful lot like Krona.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So he kind of gets in the face of the Green Lanterns and Doiby and taunts them and says, "By the time you're unparalyzed, I'll be off, and I'm going back to." He calls them Masters of Malevolence, the Guardians.
The Guardians aren't malevolent.
He calls himself the Master of Malevolence. I thought he was calling the Guardians that because he hates them.
Yeah, but that wouldn't make any sense. That's not what malevolence means.
They're malevolent towards him.
Not really. They just really think he needs to be contained because he's evil.
Well,
they're a police force. They're not a destructive force.
But if you're Sinestro,
it still doesn't make sense. He's not dumb. He knows what words mean.
Right, but if you're Sinestro...
He also knows he's evil. Remember that evil contest he was in?
Right.
On Quard?
But if you're Sinestro, you're going to be
looking at the short answer is you're wrong, Spencer.
I'm not wrong. You're just not letting me speak.
Okay.
If you're Sinestro, you're going to look at the Guardians as whether they want to contain me or not. I'm not going to be able to be the evil guy, and they think of they are.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my Hayden Christensen. Ugh.
So yeah, Sinestro takes his kind of bank robbers, the gangsters.
His minions.
Yeah.
I still prefer henchmen.
Yeah, that's way better.
Yeah.
His minions makes me think of the little yellow guys now.
Yeah, they've kind of ruined that term.
Takes off towards Oa and the power battery.
He steals it, and
just so we know how important the power battery is, we have these Guardians talking. Nothing must ever go wrong with the master power battery.
Right.
Applies to, and just so you remember.
Well,
if anything goes wrong.
Yeah. And so they sent out the call to all the rest of the Green Lantern Corps, like, look, Sinestro's taken the power battery.
Right.
You have less than 24 hours to track him down, because you won't be able to recharge your batteries.
Right. And so...
here's the thing. Why does him stealing the power battery, he didn't destroy it. Doesn't it still contain the charge that they draw off of? If it's still in the matter universe...
Yeah.
Because he doesn't go to the antimatter universe, does he?
No.
Then why would they not be able to draw power from it still? It's not like the battery itself is drawing power from Oa, is it?
No.
So if it's its own self-contained source of power, shouldn't it still be the source of power no matter what its location is?
Right.
I mean, they still need to get it back, but the whole you have less than 24 hours because of your ring charge... That doesn't really make sense.
So my only thought is maybe they're worried that he's going to try to destroy it.
Oh,
so
okay.
If it's destroyed,
then they won't be able to recharge the rings.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because their power batteries draw power from the main power battery.
Right.
And so if it's destroyed...
But if he was going to destroy it, he could have done it right there on Oa. He must have a different plan for it.
Right.
Which he does.
Which he does, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess moving along to his plan, he starts making rings for his henchmen. And you mentioned this before we started here. The henchmen's costumes.
Yeah, he gives them all same costumes as Sinestro.
Right.
Which I think one guy can wear the Sinestro costume, right. And that's Sinestro. A bunch of guys in that costume is weird. Now, many supervillains have henchmen who have a duplicate or very similar to their own costume.
Right.
But Sinestro is not one that I think would employ that.
So jumping ahead to the Jeff Johns run, they do have. I mean, I would say that
when Sinestro has the Sinestro Corps in those yellow uniforms, yes, they all have the same costume.
But here, it seemed like
in his original kind of jestery costume.
Yeah.
At least, thank God he doesn't have. I'm so glad he doesn't have a cap and bells. That would just take away all the menace.
Yeah. So in his. So in the Johns run, does he have just the plain, duplicate, the yellow duplicate of the lantern? Or does he have the,
I think he has his... I want to say he starts with his original costume and then gets the yellow when he starts the Corps.
Okay.
I think. It's been a long time since I've read it. I certainly haven't read the whole run. Right. So, anyway.
Yeah, so he starts making rings. But as soon as he starts making rings, of course, our heroes are going to show up. Hal and Alan do. And they just totally wipe out the henchmen.
Totally. They just bowl them over like 10 pins.
Mm-hmm.
Which they probably even say that. Or I'm surprised that they don't. But great, nice panel with that, and you just see them scattered about. Yeah. It's great.
Sinestro jumps in to the fight, and he has 2 rings now.
Yeah, because he's been making all these rings.
Right. And so he fires the 2 beams.
Right.
One at Alan and one at Hal.
Now, Hal's ring can't defend himself against it because Sinestro's beam is yellow.
Right.
And
due to the necessary impurity in the power battery.
And the ring and stuff. It can't affect anything the color yellow.
Right.
So anyway, but that's not the story with Alan's ring. Because Alan didn't get his ring from the Guardians. Alan got it from like a magic meteor or something.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's Golden Age.
Right.
But anyway...
Which that ends up changing, because...
when does that change?
Well, he ends up, like, it wouldn't make sense that he got it from a meteor in the newer incarnation.
Which continuity are you referring to right now? New 52?
Yeah. Because even before that, he was, the Green Lantern is the, Avatar of the Green, isn't he? Oh, that's
New 52.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah, that's the New 52
okay.
in Earth 2 that series. Yeah. But, but Alan's ring he can't affect anything made of wood.
Made of wood, yeah.
So
like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah. There was a great joke on, I want to get off this tangent real quick, but there was a great joke on Batman the Brave and the Bold. And they had an episode up in the JLA satellite, the JSA and the JLA meeting. And Guy Gardner was making fun of Alan Scott, saying like, like, what happens when you come up with somebody who's got a stick? You know, it's like, what happened? And Alan Scott's like, what happens if somebody paints that stick yellow? Something to that effect. It was pretty awesome.
Right.
But
they're both dead.
Yeah, right? A yellow stick. Oh, man. But anyway, Alan changes because his ring can affect yellow, he changes the color of Sinestro's beam to black. And so then Hal can defend himself. Good job.
Yeah. But then Sinestro really pours on his attack and takes them both out for a second.
Yeah.
And so they we got to really team up. And so they just lay into him as hard as they can. And the ring, he's doing like a backflip. And the rings pop up.
Oh, it's like a forward flip.
Is it a forward?
I don't know. It seems like it could be interpreted anyway. It's a still page, a panel. So
his rings pop off his fingers,
and then Hal
runs in and just decks him.
Yeah, I love how they just I got a ring that can do anything, but I'm gonna punch guys whenever I can.
Yeah. So they imprison Sinestro in an amber cube
again.
Yeah.
Because that's how he was trapped before.
They apologize about,
stuff,
and Green Lantern ends up, or Hal kind of ends up making a miniature Goitrud, and they give it to Doiby. They shake hands,
and Doiby is so moved he cries.
Yeah,
and it's a miniature duplicate, but down to every detail.
Yeah.
So,
Hal and Al shake hands, and we get Pie Face with a big old grin on his face.
It's the final panel, and that's how the end of that story happened, or whatever. So, so we have one more issue to talk about this issue, or this episode rather. And it's Green Lantern number 53, cover dated June of 1967, covered penciled by Carmine Infantino, and inked by Murphy Anderson. So, I think this is the first non-Gil Kane cover that I can think of. So, for this series.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about this cover, but the flames on the lettering, Green Lantern, the logo, really stand out to me. Right.
Well, I think the lettering or the logo, I think that's done by Irish Snap.
Okay.
There's a whole book about there's a guy I'm friends with on Facebook, Arlen Schumer, and he's a comics historian. He's got a book coming out, I think, and he's doing lectures about the super type of Irish Snap, and that's what it's called. And all the all the classic DC comics, like Silver Age logos on books, they're almost all of them are designed by this guy Irish Snap, and most people, comics fans, don't know this guy's name, and so he's kind of bringing this guy to light.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he also has a book called The Silver Age of Comic Book Art, which just spotlights a lot of the major artists of the Silver Age.
Yeah. Cool.
And Arlen tours the cons and does lectures at a lot of conventions.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Yep. So the first story in this issue
is called Captive of the Evil Eye, and it was written by John Broome and penciled and inked by Gil Kane.
Yep. So Carol is bummed, like she doesn't know where her test pilot is.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, Pi knows. He knows exactly why Hal's gone. And where he is, really. And she's like pining for him, like, oh, I miss him. And Pi says, so do all his friends. Like, listen, you dirty whore.
Whoa!
He's not saying it like that.
She isn't.
But he understands why Hal left. And it's because Carol broke his heart.
Well, to be fair, she went with another man because he wasn't around. Remember, because he was always off in space and stuff.
Yeah.
You called her a whore. That's pretty harsh.
Yeah.
Like, really?
I shouldn't have called her a whore.
That's pretty terrible, Spencer. Anyway, go ahead.
But the attitude in Pi's sentence there, so do all his friends. Is how
It's like, Pi, remember who you work for?
Right. Yeah. And so it turns out that Hal has ended up working at Evergreen Insurance Company in northern Washington. So he's charged with finding out whether the claims that they're getting from this like kind of podunk town about a meteorite are legit or not.
Yeah. Well, he's anticipating claims. No one's filed any claims.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which
There
is
was a
weird.
meteorite, and then
Yeah. This is. I don't know if claims adjuster would go to an area to be around just in case there are claims. Usually, it works like someone makes a claim and then you investigate it.
Right.
Claims adjuster, claims investigator. That's.
Yeah.
It's a very proactive thing we've got going in the comics, but I don't think that's very true to life.
Right. Yeah.
Neither is having a magic ring, but
Right. Yeah. So he takes off as Green
I guess
Lantern.
it's not magic, though, is it?
No.
It's sciencey, right?
Kind of, but like the way it works is kind of magic-y. Like he can do anything. with
Yeah,
it.
but I
There's
think
no,
it's
like
you can do things like magic, but there's a sciencey or a pretend science explanation, right? Like, because it's the Guardians aren't mystical beings; they're a highly advanced race, and their technology and stuff. Because their first police force was the Manhunter robots.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't invent magical golems.
Right.
So, okay, I'm going with its science, not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just like. I would say though that Alan Scott's is magic.
It is, but has nothing to do with the Guardians.
Right.
And that's on Earth 2, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think on Earth 3, Power Ring, the evil counterpart to a lantern, the analog, I think his is magic too.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah. So he takes off towards this like town, and it turns out that the meteor kind of like when it hit, it wasn't like a meteor. It was
This giant
alien?
dude. Yeah, Thotan.
Yeah. And his purpose is to suck up all of the oxygen on Earth to take it back to his planet.
So he can poison their enemies on this other world.
Right,
Because his race and his other people have been at war for a long time. Like the Kree and the Skrulls.
Yeah.
And interesting, Gil Kane monster without the circular brows or lips, and a ponytail instead of a mohawk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, changing it up, Gil.
Yeah. So the two races are the Nagbor and the Josana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which ones are the Nabgor is what Thotan is from, right?
Right.
Yeah.
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 Because the just Jazz.
Joxanda. I'm gonna say it's an X sound. Joxanda. Could be Josanda.
Yeah. They breathe ammonia gas.
Yeah, and so oxygen will be poisonous to them because reasons.
Yeah. So they send him, and Hal starts, fighting. But he's still, sucking in all the air.
The whole time he can talk and suck in the air.
Right.
It's like those, you ever heard of, the inward screaming thing?
Mm-mm.
It's a thing. You should look it up later.
Okay.
It's not a tangent I need to get into.
Okay. So Hal's like, all right, he's sucking everything up. I'm going to go in there. And so he flies into the mouth of this alien guy. Is he an alien or is he a robot?
Who is a robot?
Thotan? Thotan, yeah.
No, he's an alien. He's not a robot. He's a biological creature. Okay. He's not a robot.
So Hal, ends up getting trapped in the mouth of the mouth of Thotan. And so he's like, all right, let's check this place out. He flies around and he gets... somehow he gets behind the eye of Thotan.
Yeah.
And messes with the eye. He flies inside the nose and starts punching in the nose, which eventually leads Thotan to sneezing. And he sneezes Hal Jordan out.
Right.
Hal realizes, I'm not going to be able to do much as just me as a small guy.
So he uses the ring to make himself larger, which he should have done right off the bat.
Yeah, I think he should do it more often.
Yeah. I like when the Spectre becomes a giant, too.
Yeah.
He does it a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, and it's usually just to spook people, not to, squash people.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah.
But or just to be imposing and talk to people.
What if he went out, when he was on where Paul Manning was, and all the Neo men? Why don't he just make himself big and splat them?
Right?
Right?
Well, that would be using lethal force. You're not supposed to. It's way later. I think it's during the Sinestro Corps where the Guardians say, yeah, lethal force enabled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, still, he can still just
Was it the Sinestro Corps war, or was that in Blackest Night? Maybe both? I know I read both.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. At this point, Silver Age, lethal force is forbidden.
Right, yeah.
That's a Sinestro thing to do.
Yeah.
Although I haven't even seen Sinestro kill anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's Code Era, that's why. But anyway, so yeah, Hal uses his patented punching style to...
Right. So they kind of fight down, they fall down the mountain.
I love this panel of them rolling down the hill, and then they just smash buildings.
Right.
Thotan's gonna stab Green Lantern with a church steeple.
Yeah.
Then Hal goes into the general store and grabs a barrel of pepper,
giant barrel,
which has never existed ever.
And shakes it into Thotan's face.
Because this isn't Green Lantern, it's Jack the Giant Killer. Okay. Right. But anyway, and then makes him sneeze and then punches him. Yeah. Here's the thing, if the guy doesn't even breathe oxygen, why would pepper make him sneeze? You know what I mean? It's a different... And he was sucking up all this oxygen and trees and stuff.
Yeah.
But pepper's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Think about all the pollen.
Yeah.
That he would have been sucking up.
He'd get a sinus.
That would be way more sneezy than pepper. But anyway.
So Hal takes him back to...
his planet.
Yeah.
After he beats him up.
Yeah. And drops him off and says, hey, if you come back to Earth, it's not going to be so nice.
Yeah.
Basically threatens them and not coming back. And so he goes back to the...
to the insurance claims office. Yeah. And tells his boss what a good job he did.
Yeah. Our company is in the clear. There are no claims against us. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about the backup story. It's called Two Green Lanterns in the Family.
Uh-huh.
And it was written by John Broome, penciled by Carmine Infantino, and inked by Sid Green.
Yeah.
I think this is the first in the whole series, other than one story that Gil Kane didn't finish, and then Bernie Sachs and Mike Sikowski came in and helped out on.
Uh-huh.
This is the only time so far that somebody else has drawn a Lantern story.
Oh.
So I don't know, maybe Gil Kane got sick or whatever. Right. Whatever reason he couldn't meet the deadline. He was also fairly in demand, I think it's usually late 60s. This might have been around the time he did his he was doing experiments like in self-publishing where he did A Man Called Savage.
Oh, right.
Did I show you that? Yeah, I'm gonna have to lend you that. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway, for whatever reason, Gil Kane doesn't draw this, and Fantino does, and it's pretty good. So yeah, 2 Green Lanterns in the family.
Yeah. So the story starts off. Hal is visiting his brother Jim, who is married to Sue,
who is just obsessed with the fact that Jim is quote unquote Green Lantern.
Right. Yeah.
She cannot be swayed. She's constantly on him about you're Green Lantern.
My thought is they're having dinner.
Yeah.
And Green Lantern is in northern Washington fighting Thotan.
Yeah.
And they're having dinner at the same time. And she sees Jim sitting in front of her. And then, days later, she'll hear, oh, Green Lantern was fighting Thotan at the exact same time. And nope, it's him.
But you have to remember that it's a Silver Age, and in the Silver Age, every woman in DC Comics is crazy. And irrational, which is really bad, but that's just the running theme.
But it's also, it's a symptom of comics being such a boys' game.
Well, and it's also,
And so it's 40, 50-year-old men writing what they think a woman would be thinking or saying.
Or ought to be.
Or
remember,
ought to be, yes.
DC Comics in the 60s is still, probably 5 to 10 years behind popular culture-wise, or with what's, the correct attitudes about certain things. Okay? DC is kind of the very conservative, although attempting to be hip in weird ways.
Yeah.
Like in Teen Titans, when we get... I think Jeff and I are going to do the Teen Titans books, but oh man, it's crazy stuff. Or having Snapper Carr, for example, the hipster beatnik, with all that imagined teen lingo.
Right. Yeah.
But also having weird attitudes about women's lib or stuff.
Right.
So
I think that is still a problem today.
Yeah, I think it's getting better. I think you won't. Not as much in mainstream superhero comics. Except maybe at Marvel, it's getting better more so than DC.
Right. I think...
DC, no matter what era it is, they're always a little out of step.
Yeah. I think, though, with the influx of female writers and artists and things, we're getting a better interpretation of what women are really liking in comics.
Right. And I think 5 or 10 years, DC Comics will seem, be at where they ought to be.
Right. Yeah.
Gosh, maybe at that time DC Comics will be good again. Anyway.
Yeah, so we find out that he's been gone from California.
Who has?
Hal.
Okay.
Has been gone from California for about 6 months.
Oh yeah, Coast City is in California. That's right. It was destroyed by Mongol in the Cyborg Superman in 92?
Yeah.
1992.
And he's been he's kind of catching Jim up on his life away from California.
Yeah.
But it turns out that Jim and Sue had a kid.
Yeah.
A little boy. And so Hal's like, well, you know what? I'm staying with you guys. You're doing me a favor. Why don't you guys go out and I'll watch the kid?
Go to a play.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny because the baby, there's a story about Jim was, the baby wouldn't stop crying. And so Jim just puts on a Green Lantern costume, from a masquerade.
Right, yeah.
That's going to calm the baby. Yeah. Super weird.
But as he does it...
The wife comes in and is like, aha, Green Lantern. What? Dude. Why would you keep a Green Lantern costume around if you know your wife is obsessed with the idea that you are Green Lantern?
Right.
Why would you feed that? But it serves the purpose of the story. It's so funny.
And so we have this it seems to be like a 3-Man and a Baby situation, but it's just Green Lantern and a baby. He puts on
Ted Danson is Hal Jordan.
Here's the thing: Cheers era Ted Danson probably could pull off a Hal Jordan.
Ted Danson, Steve Guttenberg, and Tom Selleck. God, what a cast!
Right?
I mean, I love those guys.
Yeah.
And together?
Here's the thing, what happened to Steve Guttenberg? He was in, everything.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's
just disappeared.
Here's the thing, don't see Tom Selleck or Ted Danson in many movies. And then to see those two guys in a movie, and with Mr. 1980, Steve Guttenberg.
Yeah.
An interesting two movies.
But at the same time, like, I don't think that, like, so even, like, right now, Tom Selleck and Ted Danson aren't hurting for...
They're doing a lot of TV movies.
Yeah. And a lot of TV. I know that Ted Danson is doing, like, NCIS or some show like that.
And I think Guttenberg got typecast as a certain kind of character, that he played the same guy pretty much every time. You love Steve Guttenberg, but he's just being Steve Guttenberg.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a huge range, but he's very lovable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that style of movie kind of fell out of fashion, and just his career dried up.
Right. I think the 90s buddy comedy took the place of the Three Men and a Baby comedy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
the Bad Boys, or what's that one with Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker?
Oh, Rush Hour.
Rush Hour. Those kinds of movies definitely took the place. And it's funny, the 80s, the buddy cop movies were a little more serious.
Yeah.
Like 48 Hours and Beverly Hills Cop, those kinds of movies are a little, I mean, there's still some comedic touches, but 48 Hours movies are pretty serious.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Tucker
Comics.
Yeah.
Like that weird 80s movie sideline. Okay.
But no, I stand by. I think Cheers era Ted Danson could pull off a Hal Jordan, like...
Would he be Hal, or would he be Jack? Or Jim? Is it Jim? Yeah, Jim.
His brother, Jim.
Yeah. Jack's the older brother, that's right.
I think he would be a good brother. If they got, like, a... Yeah.
I'm just seeing Guttenberg or Ted Danson in either of those roles. It's really funny in my head. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Hal is kind of putting on like a show for the kid. He shows him Santa Claus. He ends up just taking off his outer clothes and just wearing the suit
and flying the kid around the house, which is great. And then the phone rings.
Yeah.
It's Jim calling from the play. And there's a robbery. Guys are robbing the box office.
Yeah. And so...
Jim does try to stop the robbery. Yeah. Hey, guys, you shouldn't do this.
Like, just gets decked.
Yeah.
Knocked out. And so he puts the baby, the nephew, in this, like, bubble. And just, like...
And then leaves.
Yeah.
It's so weird when he will create, like, permanent or semi-permanent constructs that will like operate independently without him just thinking about it the whole time.
Yeah,
and it's weird to me because I think the whole concept of like, at this time it's like you can do anything and there's really not a whole lot of rules.
Right.
Because later it seems like, oh, you have to be thinking about it.
Yeah, and so like here, I think the idea is the will, like he needs the willpower to be able to create it,
and then it'll
sustain itself.
Until he wills it away.
Right.
Which is, it's a different distinction. I don't know.
Because, like,
or like the time that, you haven't read the story, where he, like, traps Solomon Grundy on the moon or something in, like, a bubble.
Oh.
And and he's imprisoned him there.
Oh. But, like, I don't think if, like, this how Jordan met up with Batman. Using that classic, like, Batman sequence where he just takes the ring off of...
he took the ring off Kyle Rayner. Oh, in a story I read.
Right. So Batman can do that. He did it to Hal Jordan
in that New 52 version, but come on.
Yeah, the movie.
I was in that first comic arc too.
Yeah. But I think Batman could take it off of Hal. If Hal wasn't
if it's the
focused,
Grant Morrison Bat God Batman, sure. But Silver Age Batman, no.
No.
And he wouldn't have a reason to or a desire to.
Right. And I think here, if Batman took the ring off of Hal Jordan, there's no reason Hal couldn't just use it still.
Yeah.
Like he tested it in that first volume, remember?
Of what?
It was of Green Lantern.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he did those tests with
where see how much he could use the ring without even wearing it.
Right.
Yeah.
There was like a cave-in or something like that.
Yeah, those were some interesting ways. Those are just responses to fan letters and questions.
Yeah.
Which is great because comics fandom was such a growing force in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hal takes off after the play robbers.
Yeah. It's so funny. And one of these thugs, Rhino, the guy who punches Jim, kind of looks like a buff version of Carmine Infantino himself.
Does he really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, kinda.
Okay.
I don't think it's so much a self-portrait, but
right. So they take off in their car, and Hal fires these tiny missiles from his ring, and pops all the tires of the car.
Yeah.
And they kind of they break. Yeah, challenges to him a fight.
Yeah, because they're like, oh yeah, you're real tough when you got the ring. Because
we'll throw our guns off.
Rhino actually tough talks him, getting him to take the ring off, and so this is just masturbatory, really.
Right. Yeah.
But it's whatever. It's fun. We get 2 pages of Hal punching this guy. So
yeah. Hal gets punched into a wall, and just he gets that kind of pisses him off, and he rebounds off the wall and just gut punches Rhino.
And Rhino's this big tough guy.
Yeah. Rhino goes down.
Rhino Infantino. He totally looks like Carmen Infantino. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, Hal beats him without the ring, and then the bad guys go to jail.
Yeah.
And later at breakfast, at Jim and what's the wife's name again?
Sue.
Sue. Yeah.
Sue is still convinced that Jim was the Green Lantern and he had nothing to do with it. And she's like, "Yeah, it was you." And he's like, "How did I get this black eye then?" If
she's thinking that's proof that he fought him.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
So
I don't know if you're wearing a domino mask, somebody punches you in the eye, would you still have a black eye, or would it protect you?
I don't know. I mean, I feel because it's just a bruise, and bruise is kind of broken blood vessels.
Yeah.
And so
I guess if you just fit the force would
Yeah.
would impact you the same pretty much. It wouldn't protect you that much. I mean, geez, a domino mask. I can't understand why it would fool anyone to really disguise your identity, let alone So anyway.
But then later still, in the mail, Hal sends the nephew Howard a tiny baby version of the Green Lantern outfit.
Yeah.
And so we get now we have 2 Green Lanterns in the family.
Womp womp modelly down. So.
Yep.
Well, that's it for this episode. Do you have any other stuff? Any other?
No. Just remember to rate and review us on iTunes and follow us there, and follow us on Stitcher as well.
Yeah, you follow us. You subscribe.
You subscribe there?
Yeah, you subscribe to those. They could follow us on Twitter at Comic Reflection with no S, and you can like us on Facebook. I'm going to be starting to begin updating our WordPress page, which is comicreflections.wordpress.com, which is our page is way out of date. I haven't posted there since sometime in 2013 or 14.
Oh,
so
wow.
I've got over 100 episodes I got to start doing. So
yeah.
But hopefully I'll get a few of those up a week, and we'll get going with that.
Yeah. We read reviews, and we try to incorporate what you ask us.
Yeah, we totally enjoy hearing from listeners. Go ahead and contact us if you want to. You can email us also at comic.reflections@gmail.com.
That's true.
Okay, let's wrap it up, baby.
Have a good one.